Page 258, story time. When I was in high school, I fell hard for a guy. At the time, he was everything that I wanted to be. He was charismatic, he was involved with everything, charming, and just unstoppable. I was really none of these things at the time, but I wanted to be. So when he started talking to me, I could not believe my luck. I wasn't really used to male attention, especially not from an older guy, and this boy made me feel really special. He texted me every single day, he kept the conversation going when there was nothing to say, and really made time for me. And then things started to get worse and worse and worse. I'm going to tell you characteristics of unhealthy relationships. I'm going to tell you these because I want you to avoid making the mistake that I did, and I want you to get out of unhealthy relationships. Whether it is abuse or manipulation or whatever it is, I want you to know how to recognize it. So here are unhealthy characteristics, and these can apply to relationships, friendships, anything. It's worth noting that I never even dated this person, nor was I ever even intimate with them. So, here are a couple characteristics of unhealthy relationships. 1. They make you feel guilty for just about everything. This guy would always tell me that I wasn't doing enough for him, and always made me feel guilty about how I was. He told me that I didn't put in enough time for him, that I never texted him, and that I never gave him enough attention. Essentially, that anything I did would never and could never be enough. And despite the fact that I was texting first, that I was giving up my time, and so much more, I believed him. You deserve someone who loves you and appreciates you for you, rather than someone who makes you constantly feel inadequate and on edge. 2. They make you responsible for their emotions and blame you for their behavior. No matter what I did, it always seemed to be my fault. Always. One time, he wouldn't even look at me. He told me that he was really upset with me. And after pleading with him for what felt like forever, he finally told me that he was angry because I didn't text back the night before. I pulled out my phone to show him that, yeah, I did text you back, but I had actually deleted all my messages, so I couldn't even show him proof. So I told him that he should check his phone, so that way he could see, and he refused to. When he finally agreed to check his phone, I couldn't believe it. There wasn't a message from me. It looked as though I hadn't texted him back. But I really had texted him back, and so I kept trying to tell him, but he didn't believe me, and he told me that I always lied to him and that I never did anything for him. He kept making me feel so guilty, and after this going on for quite some time, and me practically crying because I felt so bad for making him upset, he told me that I actually had texted him back. He just deleted the message to look like I didn't. And then somehow, I don't remember what he said, but he twisted it back so that way it was somehow my fault again. I have so many instances of small things being over-exaggerated, followed by me being blamed for it. You all deserve someone who treats you with respect and doesn't turn every little thing into one big dramatic issue, only to blame you for it. 3. They become jealous and possessive. This boy always wanted to be my favorite and was jealous of the one boy that I was close with. Sometimes he would fake cry to me over it. A lot of the time we think that jealousy is cute, and in small doses it can be sometimes, but overall possessiveness and jealousy is not cute. It's a sign of abuse when someone wants you all to themselves and they don't let you make other friends or become close to other people. 4. They make threats. One time, he texted me angrily and informed me that he was going to ignore me, but he wouldn't tell me why. Classic. After an hour of me sitting there completely panicked, practically in tears because I had messed up with him yet again, he told me that he was upset because I never liked his social media post. I tried to explain to him that I wasn't even home and that my phone didn't get internet at the time, so there was no way I could have seen it. He told me he knew that I didn't care about him and that it was just always excuses with me. Let's bring this back into perspective. I didn't even have Wi-Fi on my phone, so there's no way that I could have checked social media. Needless to say, there's no way that I could have pressed like on his social media post. He had absolutely no right to be angry with me. But at the time, this was a huge, stressful event for me. He went on then to give me a hard time and say that he was never going to speak to me again, which was a frequent threat that he would deliver. I almost lost it at this point. As per usual, he claimed it was all my fault and I never did anything for him. I was lucky. He was always threatening to never talk to me again. I've had friends where people have threatened to kill themselves if they're broken up with. That's terrifying and ridiculously unfair. That is not love. When you love someone, or even remotely care about them, you don't threaten them. Ever. Period. Threats have no place in love. 5. They will briefly change their way when you're about to leave. On the few occasions that I resisted him, he turned his act around and was very kind towards me. And then I would remember how kind he was in the beginning, and I would think, I can't stop liking him because he's really nice sometimes. Sometimes. It's a vicious cycle. Here's a story. It was the last day of school. I was laying in my bed, almost ready to go to sleep. I hadn't spoken to him in probably over a month, and all of a sudden I got a text message from him. And in the text message, for the first time ever, literally ever over the course of this entire year, was an apology. He never had apologized before and had never owned up to anything. It was always, always, always my fault. And for the first time, he owned up to treating me poorly and he said he was sorry. I forgave him right away because I am a big believer in forgiveness. So a few weeks go by and I don't see him. And then we were both invited to hang out by a mutual friend. This was the first time that I was seeing him since the apology, and I was ready to move on and to be friends. I go over to him and he's with 2 or 3 other people and I say hello. He doesn't even look at me. I try saying hello a second time because maybe he just didn't hear me, but nothing. He refuses to even acknowledge my presence. I stand there in stunned silence for 2 or 3 minutes and he just completely ignores me, won't even look at me, and then I back away. I've seen him on several occasions since, but that's the end of that. You get the point. It's important to know that abuse is a cycle of good and bad. In the beginning, it might feel like the relationship is 90% good and 10% bad. However, after a few months, it might feel 50-50. And if the relationship continues, it's most likely only going to get worse. Truly, this cycle is what defines abuse or unhealthy relationships, because abuse is a cycle that goes back and forth and back and forth, and this is what I believe separates unhealthy relationships from healthy relationships. Here are some other unhealthy characteristics. They force you to do things. They put you down instead of bringing you up. They make you doubt yourself. They're always one-upping you. If you had a bad day at school, their day was worse. They diminish your feelings and make you feel like you're overreacting. If you think that you or someone you know might be in an unhealthy or an abusive relationship, please reach out for help. Go to loveisrespect.org or various other online resources. I'm going to post a few in the down bar. And if you liked what I was saying, or it resonated with you, or you want to hear more, feel free to check out my book, Survival of the Prettiest. It can be found on Amazon. It's over 300 pages and it is filled with content like this. I aim to keep all of my work as real as possible, and I think I did a good job in this one. Thank you.